What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with data points, we don't really have too much at the beginning part of the week. It's going to be a lot of Fed speakers occasionally here and there. So that could cause some volatility in among itself. Because of the government shutdown, a lot of the key labor data is still on pause. But it is going to come down to Friday. So we have CPI, Michigan Consumer Sentiment, so big inflationary data points. And then we have the S&P putting out composite manufacturing and services. 50 in all of those cases is a key pivot. Anything above 50 shows more of an expansion. Anything below 50 shows more of a contraction. So Friday is going to be a very big day for data. Aside from that, companies unveiling the earnings. So we have a lot of big names coming out this week. So Netflix, Tesla, Intel, many other names out there. But of course, Tesla, that's going to be very relevant to Lucid. So typically if Tesla comes out very doom and gloomish for Q4, then that could trickle down to other EVs because they did put out their Q3 in production numbers, which were rather on point, but they did give a little bit more of a warning for Q4. And convenient timing, 2 days after Tesla put out their numbers, you did have Trump initially saying that they were thinking about easing on US auto tariffs. So there wasn't really anything for information that did come out. This was posted on Bloomberg a couple days back, so on the 16th. Still, not really much context. So still, Trump administration is thinking about easing on the US auto tariffs. So still, what does that mean? So potentially, if we get some kind of updates on what that means, then of course Lucid could really move higher. Lucid's mentioned over the last couple of earnings that these tariffs are really hitting into their margins, anywhere from around 12 to 15%. So quite significant. So if they reduce it down to zero or even half the tariffs, that could be beneficial to Lucid. Going into this upcoming week, we are under the fear category. So in theory, people's appetite for risk isn't necessarily there. So we did see even on Friday, institutions not really trading a lot of speculative stocks as much as they once would have. So again, just keep that in mind. And on a side note, what is causing all this fear? One is just China and the States. And so far over the weekend, we haven't really seen any crazy developments. So Trump is planned to meet with China at the end of October. So that fear might linger for a little bit longer. And then another thing that did come out recently was some cracking within the regional banks. And when this happened back in 2023, one thing that got the market to really move higher and forget those cracks and whatever else from the Silicon Valley Bank was companies unveiling the earnings. So you might not see too much volatility because of that. So in reality, it is going to come down to companies unveiling their earnings and Friday's data points. Specific to Lucid, this is what they have for upcoming events. Nothing too crazy. So right now, as of the 18th, they are in New York, so the Electrify Expo. And then it looks like they're still going to be in Roseville. Aside from that, there isn't really anything planned. Of course, associated to their Q3 earnings, the Q&A does open up. I believe it is on the 22nd or possibly the 23rd. That is where retail can pose questions to management. And as I've mentioned every single time in the past, whatever is asked day one within the first 24 hours is always asked at the end. So again, if you have some good questions, put them out straight away. Don't sit on them, put it out straight away, and hopefully those questions do get asked. Aside from that, the only other thing that really came out was this over the last couple of trading days. And so Lucid partners with PIF-backed firm for fleet management in Saudi. So 𝗖𝗢𝗡, and this, in my opinion, since it is more government fleet related, it could be linked to Lucid's kind of deal with the PIF and the government, Saudi government, where they're going to be fulfilling 50,000 vehicles, heirs, and with an extension possibly up to 100,000. So that's going to be fulfilled most likely over the next year and a half. So it looks like 𝗖𝗢𝗡 is going to be that partner to really escalate and be that middleman for that, unless this is additional over and above that, there really isn't much clarity, and nor has Lucid even put out any official news about this. So I feel like coming from a marketing standpoint, they've really been lacking a little bit. But going into this upcoming week, 31.3% of the free floats being shorted, works to be 39.7 million shares overall being shorted. So shorts have been really lingering for a while now, ranging from about 29 to 34% short interest. So anticipate shorts to be fairly active for this upcoming week. From a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that 22.50, which is rather interesting. And then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub kind of 19.50. You have a couple of big pockets right here for it to be sub 17, so something to keep in mind. One thing that I did see on StockTwits was this. So short interest detector did post that it looks like there is a whale possibly linked to the PIF keeps rolling 46,000 short strangle on a weekly basis. So in case you don't know what a short strangle is, they are ultimately selling both a call and a put. So they're kind of assuming where Lucid is going to be within a set range. If Lucid kind of breaks below that set range, then this entity does buy more stock, versus if it actually breaks above their set range, they kind of have to lose some of their stock or either short. It's kind of where you assume it's going to be in a certain range. So this is kind of interesting stuff as far as that. Aside from all of that, though, with it right now at 1963, it is trading between this pivot and this S1. So I'm looking at the one-day chart. In my opinion, because of all the data points and everything else for this week, we are going to see a lot of volatility. And most likely, we are either going to see a recovery to this pivot point of 21.19 or potentially continue to break down to that 17.65. So it is going to be a lot of volatility. And keep in mind, going into this upcoming week on the actual chart itself, we are technically below the 50-day moving average. So historically, that does result in like a 20 to 30% push lower. Of course, with good data, companies unveiling their earnings and whatever else, that could change the kind of dynamic and prompt some buying. But looking at the market position, you don't see that much willing buyers. So again, anticipate a lot of volatility. So kind of both spectrums could be hit, that $17 range, or potentially a nice recovery to that 21, but that 50-day moving average is sitting at 21.22. So kind of just watch for that. Aside from what I've brought up, there really isn't all that much in news associated to Lucid or anything else. So it is just largely piggybacking off of kind of the broader market, which in many cases is being kind of influenced through algorithmic trading and whatever else. There really hasn't been all that much in new analyst ratings or anything like that. So potentially once Tesla unveils their numbers, if that's very overwhelmingly positive, it could trickle down. You might see Cantor Fitzgerald, so the last rating that 𝗪𝗓𝗪 did do was on October the 6th. He loves to hear himself speak all the time. So in my opinion, if Tesla's earnings come out phenomenal, you might see 𝗪𝗓𝗪 want to be the top name and the most recent name. You might re-rate Lucid, and potentially if he raises this $26 price target, then you could see maybe Lucid move up a little bit from that. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Where do you see things going in the short term? Do you see higher highs, or do you see things breaking down a little bit more? What's your viewpoint? One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.